We welcome now Democratic strategist Theron Bond and Republican strategist Matt Klink for more insight into where things stand politically at this hour. Great to have you both. Thank you for being here. Matt, I'd like to start with you. You know, so much has been made about polling that shows President Trump's approval rating now sitting around 39%. This is the lowest 100-day rating of any president in the past 80 years. But I wanted to start by zeroing in on the economy. You know, the president ran on strengthening it. His poll numbers have definitely taken a major hit here, largely due to all this tariff back and forth. And what's really interesting when you dig into the numbers is a lot of folks appear to tie the president's competency as a leader to the outcome of this tariff battle. How critical do you think it is that voters feel like his bold strategy is working, especially as we talk about the midterms?
Keyleigh, I beg to differ a little bit. We do not know if people's views of Trump on the economy are the way they are because of tariffs, because the reality is that nobody has been impacted by the tariffs. They may be worried about what they perceive to be the impacts. That being said, I do think that Trump faces an expectation here where he said he was going to attack this quickly and that people were going to see results. And I think that this is the difference between campaigning and governing, that it's easy to make campaign promises, but it's very difficult to turn an economy. And the challenge is right now is that voters are just in a sour mood. They were in a sour mood when Joe Biden left office, and they're continuing to be in a sour mood. And I believe that Trump is going to be gauged on whether or not he can improve people's personal financial situation. And the reality is that Congress controls that. If they can't pass a reconciliation package, it will hurt Trump, and that will also hurt the Republicans in Congress who will sink or swim with Donald Trump on this issue.
How much runway, Matt, do you think the American people will give the president and Congress to make some inroads on the economy specifically?
Well, I think you're seeing that not much. I mean, 100 days is, you know, what, 3.5 months? And they're like, what have you done for me lately? And it's understandable. When people are hurting, they want things to happen quickly. And the challenge is that big changes in this country, largely changes that will occur through the Trump reconciliation package, they're not going to happen quickly. We're hearing at least until Memorial Day. So it will probably be realistically until the summer that the Trump economic plan really gets implemented. And until then, I think that people are still going to be very frustrated and are going to say, hey, what have you done for me lately? However, they do have some ray of hope in the sense that, you know, he is doing very well on the immigration issue, and he's not going to rely on the legacy media to communicate his message. I'm glad he's getting out on the road and do what he does best, talk directly to the American people.
Yeah, and through social media platforms as well. Theron, I'd like to ask you about some other polling numbers that show swinging in favor of the Republican Party slightly, with now 43% of folks having a favorable view compared to Democrats holding steady at about 38%. What do you attribute to those moves? And do you see Democrats coalescing around a message that resonates not only with their base, but that reaches some voters now who supported Trump and who maybe aren't happy with the direction of this administration?
Well, I want to address two things. One, on the tariffs issue, the reality is that the American public has been directly impacted by the tariffs issue and Trump's inconsistency with keeping the tariffs versus taking them on and off, because we see that clearly in the stock market and the way that consumers are purchasing things in bulk in an effort to avoid potential tariffs on everyday needs that they maintain in their household. So that's number one. When we talk about the Democratic messaging, they're polling lower because there's not enough action behind the words that they speak. Yes, they've done some performative things, and then votes happen, and then it's, oh, well, that's back out the window. And so the Democrat leadership in both the House and the Senate have to get a bit stronger with the actions being put behind their words, as do that coming from the DNC. So when we see actions put behind the words that the Democrats are saying, then the American public will believe them to be champions and true opposition party against what the Trump administration is doing. However, when it comes to the Republican Party, that percentage is still not hitting over 50% because they don't believe Trump. One minute he says something and they go, you should believe him. The next minute Republicans say, oh, well, he doesn't mean that. Well, why would a president say something that he doesn't mean or doesn't intend to do? And why can't he back things up? And why can't his party hold him accountable? So what Democrats need to do is be accountable to their message still being sour in the mouths of many of the American public, and they need to improve that and show more action. And what Republicans need to do is take some accountability and responsibility for the state of this country, because Donald Trump said he would do many things on day one, many that we still have yet to see come to fruition as we approach this 100th day in Trump 2.0.
And I want to make sure we get to the border as well, a major talking point as we near this milestone. Matt, when you look at polling on the border issue specifically, the president's numbers are very strong, but one area he appears to be taking a hit is with issues relating to the courts. 78% say of those polled say the Trump administration should have to follow a federal court's ruling. That rises to 88% if the Supreme Court were to issue that ruling. How much do you believe the administration's run-ins with issues related to due process are impacting the president's overall border security mission? And what do you see as his best response to some of those challenges?
Sure. I mean, look, the due process issue is going to sort itself out. And I find it interesting that now the ACLU and liberal Democrats, they're more interested in protecting people who enter this country illegally and demand 10 million individual hearings and due process equivalent to that of someone who is convicted domestically of a crime. The reality is they should be able to put these people in bulk through a quick immigration hearing, and if you're here illegally, kick them out of this country, just like Barack Obama and Bill Clinton did. These nationwide injunctions by district court judges, they've gone too far. It was an argument, ironically enough, that Democrats made when Joe Biden was in office, and suddenly they're silent now when President Trump is in office. The bottom line is that the American people decidedly want people in this country illegally out. And Joe Biden has the distinction of letting 10+ million people in illegally, and they need to be removed more quickly. The American people support that. And I'm confident that ultimately the Supreme Court is going to help the Trump administration in this regard.
Theron, I see your reaction there. I'll let you respond, and then if we have time, ask you a question on the other side.
So the problem is that everyone is due process, right? And so when we talk about the Republican Party being the party of law and order, it's funny how they don't want to acknowledge that when it doesn't seem to support their particular initiatives or agendas. But everyone is due process, and that means also respecting the court's decision, which the Trump administration has shown time and time again that he is insistent upon not doing. This is the same person that has 34 felony convictions, but based on our Constitution, guess what? Still got to run for president, and he won, whether people like it or not. So if we follow due process in the Constitution, then why are we trying to skirt around it now? It's disrespectful to our founding fathers. It's disrespectful to people who voted for him and even those who didn't. And it's disrespectful to anyone who has to navigate the criminal justice system without due process.
Theron, we touched on this just a bit with Matt, but I wanted to get your perspective as well. You know, the president said essentially that there's a transition time needed to reset the table, that he's essentially had a very successful first few months, that the public may not feel it immediately, though. How much runway do you think voters will afford him before we start seeing the midterms being in very real danger of Republicans losing their narrow majorities in both the Senate and the House?
He gets zero one way because President Trump, this is his second term, and he never stopped campaigning after his first term, after his loss, and then up until him serving in the White House again now. He knows where the bathroom is at. He knows where the people are. He knows where the places are. He knows all the intricate bells and whistles, so there's zero excuse. He also campaigned on many things that he would begin to do day one or within 24 hours. Those are still things that are left on the table to be decided or addressed by him. him. So he probably shouldn't put his foot in his mouth so much if these are things that he can't come through on. Everyone likes to say that promises made and promises kept, but there is a lot of things that he has yet to show the American public that are promises fulfilled.
All right, Matt, we've got about 15 seconds left. I'd like to give you it to respond.
Yeah, I mean, look, Donald Trump has done some great things. As I said earlier, I think it's the differentiation between campaigning and governing, and things take time. And Trump artificially raised expectations, and now he needs to deliver. And if he doesn't, the Republicans in Congress in 26 will be held accountable. They need to pass his reconciliation bill now.
Yeah, there is a lot on the line. Theron Bond, Matt Klink, a pleasure to have you both. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.